or remind you that we are talking today about elocution and etiquette made simple. And we have the wonderful Em Bartels in the studio with us. Em, you're welcome.
Thank you.
So, elocution and etiquette made simple. Tell us a bit more. I mean, your profile is very loaded, what I read of it. And it talks about professionals using the 3 C's, which you mentioned as confidence, clarity, and credibility. Please tell us a bit more about that.
The 3 C's is being able to communicate confidently, with clarity and with credibility. Confidently mean being able to have a command over the words that you're saying. Clarity is being clear for everyone to hear. And then with credibility, meaning when you speak, people shouldn't think, oh, this person is not authentic. So that's what I mean by that. So a lot of the work that I do is around communication, how people can communicate their brands, how people can present their brands in such a way that shows who they really, really are. So that's in
a bit
short,
of a brief. How important is it for somebody to be able to communicate with confidence, with clarity and credibility? For example, you mentioned about their business or their brand.
Yeah.
How important is it for somebody to be able to communicate that?
You see, I know that the number one fear, not just for us in Africa or maybe in Ghana, but worldwide, the number one fear is public speaking. How to speak or communicate in public. That's the number one fear. So a lot of us don't want to do that anyway. So when we have an opportunity to speak up or present who we are, we don't want to do that. The reason being that we're fearful, but I also say that communication and speaking is a learned skill. I always tell my story that I used to be an extremely shy child. Yes,
really?
Yes.
Oh, wow. So truly you can learn.
Yes. It's a learned skill. I was an extremely shy child, and I tell the story of we traveling from Kumasi to Accra. It's a 4 or 5 hour journey, and I will not open my mouth.
The whole time?
Yes.
And you were not sleeping?
No. Well, I sleep maybe, but I just don't see the need to talk.
Okay.
So my father thought, no, this is not right. I was shy, but I could talk. Do you get it?
Okay.
So my father said, no, what can I do about this? So he took the time out to make sure that he got me books, got me to read those books. And every evening before dinner, he says, tell me what you learned in that book.
Okay.
So I was forced to speak.
Right.
I was forced to strategize, learn, because I was going to be asked what I learned. And the rest, they say, is history. So those were the early days where I honed in my skill. I must say that's why I say it's a learned skill.
Sure.
In addition to that, I must also say that I did certification in elocution as well. So
but there was a foundation before
that, yes.
So you talking about your father being instrumental to helping you become somebody who is able to communicate very well. How important is it for parents to help their children? Now, aside of that, I mean, there are many parents who are uneducated. How can they also help their children be eloquent?
You can be uneducated, but you understand that, for instance, reading is good for your child.
Right.
So you may not be able to do that yourself. You can get a teacher or somebody else who you know can help your child to do that for you.
Right.
So it starts right from you identifying what strengths or weaknesses that child has,
Okay.
and making sure that there's intervention in that area.
Right.
But obviously, teaching English is not elocution.
Right. Okay.
Learning English is just not elocution.
Okay.
Elocution is a person's manner of speaking, the way a person talks. It includes even the inflections in the voice, vocal variety, how musical your voice is, and how you pronounce your words correctly. That's called an enunciation. So it's not just, and it also includes gestures as well. How, your body language, all that is part, it's a non-verbal communication, and it's all part of elocution.
Wow, you have opened my eyes there, because I honestly thought elocution was just about, how to speak well in public, but there's so much more.
Much more that surrounds
much more
it. Than that.
Now, you are passionate about children's etiquette and elocution. Why is that?
I told you that I had issues as a child.
Right, yeah.
So growing up, I just thought, I didn't even think in the early days that this is what I would be doing. I started my career in marketing.
What did you want to do?
Oh, do you know, I wanted to initially be a brain surgeon. Can you believe that?
Okay.
And then I wanted to work in Bank of Ghana.
Okay.
And then it all changed. Everything changed.
Wow.
I started working as a marketer,
Okay.
and then I went into public relations. I schooled in the UK.
Right.
So, I did my basic education and everything in Ghana, and then went to the UK. And then I was thrown into marketing. And that's whilst I was in marketing, that's when we were encouraged to go for elocution classes and stuff like that. So speaking well or communicating well is a learned skill. Right. You can acquire it if you're interested in, especially if you know you're a professional and you're going somewhere, you're a politician and you're going somewhere, and you want to, it's not about impressing, but I believe that excellence is making sure that everything around you is done well.
Right. It's very important.
Yeah. So if you can do all other things well, and then you come and you fluff in your communication, that takes away from your brand, I say.
Element. Yeah, sure.
Yeah.
Okay. So what advice would you give to parents who are not sure maybe how to get their children to speak well, how to give their children a certain type of confidence that they're able to communicate to others, even at a young age? What would your advice be to parents?
I think every parent has a skill. Once you become a parent or a guardian, there's a skill in you where if you observe your children correctly, you will notice the areas where they are confident and where they're not so confident. You will also notice the areas where they're good and where they're not. So identifying this area is the first point. What they could be good in maths, and in maybe general science or something, but they're very bad at English.
Okay.
So once you recognize that, as a child, it's very key to build vocabulary. So you help them, in the basic, when we go to, from nursery, there's things about, teaching children how to mention things, identifying animals, identifying humans, identifying everything.
Okay.
So it's also getting them to be out there and being able to identify these things right from the beginning.
Okay.
So once you able to build that confidence in them right from then you can get somebody to continue, as they get older. But as a child, I think that every parent, whether you are educated or not, because I know some parents that actually learned from their children's books,
Sure.
and they now have become knowledgeable because of that.
Right.
Once you've got the basics, if you don't have the basics, then you can get somebody to support you in that.
Okay, wow.
Yeah.
So the parents, please don't think that you are exempted from your children's learning and your children becoming eloquent and having good etiquette. it's good to be able to teach them from the grassroots so that when they grow older, they'll be able to put their best foot forward. But Em, in talking about putting your best foot forward, what can we do to be our best me possible? So if you saw me and you decided that you would give me some advice, what would you say that, okay, Nanama, these are the kind of things that you need to do to make sure that your best you comes out?
I have something called the brand named you. But the best you is always who you really are.
Okay.
And evolving is like taking out the old and evolving into something new.
Okay.
So here's Nanama who's confident at doing this. But what is Nanama not confident at doing?
Okay.
So what steps can Nanama take in learning those things that you are not confident at doing?
Right.
I say in life, the best thing, education and learning is the best thing that you can give to yourself.
Right.
I always say that when you stop learning, that's when you start dying.
Right. We must always be moving.
Always be moving. I told you I started in marketing, went into PR, and then went into events and sponsorship. And then from there, now I do a lot of training with diplomats and people in protocol and stuff like that.
Okay.
So at every stage of your life, find out the areas in which you can dovetail into something else that will become a better version of you. And that's what we will help you. It's not about saying, oh, this is who I am, but identify those things. When you have a coach, that coach can help you identify it. But if you don't have a coach, you can sit down, identify the things. What are my strengths? It's like I always teach under branding, draw a SWOT, your strengths, your weaknesses, your opportunities and your threats. But there's also something called PEST as well.
Okay.
We all know that,
Okay.
you know, so political, environmental, and all that. But we're not going to go into that. But I'm just saying, draw a SWOT. What are my strengths? What are my weaknesses? What are the opportunities? I'm in broadcasting. I say to somebody, you're a teacher. As a teacher, what other areas? You can be a facilitator. As a teacher, you can also be a coach.
Okay.
As a teacher, so there are different areas that you can evolve to become. You can't say, oh, this is who I am and I'm staying here. You know, all I've done is I work in a bank, so I'm staying here working in a bank. But you can grow to mentor people, and that can be an area that, you know, you dovetail into.
Right.
So these are all, it's about finding the areas of strength and then moving,
Capitalizing on them.
moving towards
Right.
that.
Well, in case you think you're in the wrong place, you're not. This is Star 103.5 FM, and this is still The Zone with me, Nanama Aqua. And I have a fellow Briton here with me, Em Bartels. So don't worry. We are here for you. But Em, I want to ask, what's the worst, because you coach different types of people, children, all the way through to adults in different environments and social situations and things like that. What's the worst case that you've had to deal with? No names.
Oh, I'm not going to mention names. Worst case that I've had to deal with. I was coaching a person who was in public service.
Okay.
And
In Ghana.
I'm not saying. But anytime I went there, he was busy doing something else. So,
Okay.
you know, I could sit down and wait for hours.
Oh.
Maybe a couple of hours sometimes before our coaching
I
session.
hope he was paying you for those hours.
Yeah, but I'm just saying that the person was too busy that you had to capitalize on making sure that they stay. And sometimes I had to chase him in different places
Wow.
to make sure that it's done. And then another one was one who thought that, you know, after having one session, this person was in media, after having one session, that was it. They can go out and do whatever they want. And then I listened to them and they're making all manner kinds of mistakes. And
Oh,
I'm
dear.
thinking, oh my God.
Oh,
You know, and she thought that after just having one we're supposed to have a 12 or I think a 12-week course. And then after that, we will evaluate and get back to progress. And guess what? After, I think, 4 weeks, this person says, I'm done.
Oh.
And then jumps out and goes and does things. And I'm listening to them and I'm thinking, oh my God.
Fine.
I like that.
But you've spoken about a male and a female.
Yeah.
Because I think that men may think that this type of thing is not for them and it's just a thing for women. What would you say about that?
I think it's even more for men.
Oh, okay.
Yes. Because, as we say, in saying in the cultural sense that men are the head and men are the leaders and women are whatever, it's even more important for the men to be able to speak confidently, speak clearly, and being able to articulate their words correctly.
Right.
What is so not for me is when somebody comes and all they do is they mumble, and then they are not very clear, and they think that because they've got a position that warrants them being a communicator. But communication is a learned skill. So, if you know that you mumble, if you know that you're not very clear, and it's not also about an accent, it's about being clear. People can hear what you say.
Please pause a minute.
Yeah.
Go over what you just said. It's not about having an accent.
No.
People are so about that.
It's not about having an accent.
Okay.
It's about pronouncing your words clearly and being able to communicate what you're saying clearly.
Right.
It's not about an accent.
Okay.
I'm not going to talk about it, but there are people that I know who speak confidently and clearly. They've learned to pronounce their words correctly without having an accent.
Right.
And that's a communicator right there.
Sure.
So you can't, it's not this thing about having a particular accent, though you can learn it. But it's not about having that particular accent. It's about being clear, and people being able to understand you. I say your voice is an instrument,
right,
and you play up and play well. Can you imagine being in a room of an orchestra where every instrument is playing anyhow, and then being in a room where they're playing a nice orchestra and everything is in harmony? That's your voice. Okay. So if I try to speak like this nasal, right? And if I try to, being able to speak properly, you're taught how to do that. Yeah. And I know that it's not a very common thing in this side of the world. We think that once you've learned English, you're good to go.
Yeah.
But it's not about learning English alone. It's about even learning the inflections of your voice. That's what we talk about, making your voice musical.
Right.
Going up and down when you're supposed to.
Okay.
Yeah.
Wow. You're teaching me, and I'm learning something good. So, elocution and etiquette made simple. What's the best way to introduce yourself?
I introduce myself as someone that helps people to stand out.
Okay. And how would you advise others to introduce themselves as well?
Introducing yourself, find a keyword or 3 keywords.
Okay.
The 3 keywords that I use is stand up, stand tall, and stand out.
Wow. Mm-hmm.
So you find 3 keywords that reflect who you are. You can go through a lot of the things that you do. So find those 3 keywords and use that in introducing yourself. My name's Em Bartels. I support professionals to become who they really want to be by using communication, being credible, being excellent, and also standing out. So you can just say that in 30 seconds.
Right.
You can say that in 30 seconds. So you can couch it. It doesn't have to, some people say 2 minutes, whatever, introduction. But I say a 30-second introduction, short and brief, gets people out there. If you can't remember anything about me today, all you can remember is Em said stand out. And that's easy.
Yeah.
It's easy.
Yeah.
But if I said a whole lot of...
What would you remember? Yeah.
You're not going to remember it.
That's so true.
Let's do some mispronounced words in
Okay,
Ghana.
sure. Go ahead.
Do that.
Go ahead. Okay, give me 5 words that maybe
dear.
people mispronounce in Ghana. No problem. Give me 5 words that people maybe mispronounce in Ghana. Common words.
Common words. Entrepreneur. They say entrepreneur. There's no noir in there. Okay. Right? Pensioner.
Okay.
Pensioner.
Yes. That's a good one.
It doesn't make... There's no near in there.
Right.
Failure.
Okay.
It's failure.
Yes.
There's no failure.
Yes, that's
it's
true.
a failure.
Yeah.
So that's what, 3, right?
Yeah. Number 4?
Number 4. Okay, number 4 is ask. Ask. And people say axe.
Yes.
Or ass. Ask.
Yeah.
Ask.
A-S-K.
A-S-K.
Yes.
And then another word that we have a problem with is a lot of the THs. We can't, it's not our fault. It's the local accent. Some local accents makes it difficult to actually pronounce our words correctly. So if you want to make the TH sound, I teach about sounds in elocution.
Okay.
I start with the basics, the A, B, C's of elocution.
Okay.
And it starts with the sounds. So if you want to pronounce a word with TH in it, you put your tongue in between your teeth, blow.
Okay.
So instead of saying tim, you say thing. Thing. I-N-G in English is never it's always ing.
Yes.
Ing. So
pronunciation can be difficult for some because their tongues cannot twist that way.
But it's a learned skill.
Sure.
So we can learn.
You just have to be willing to learn.
Yeah.
Now, Em, I mentioned earlier in my intro about how people kind of act in public and things like that. People picking their noses, indiscriminate spitting, picking their teeth in public, holding doors for people, and public displays of affection and hair tapping rather than scratching. Yeah. What are some, just maybe some 2, because our time is about to run out, but maybe some 2 that are a very big deal that people really, really go to town on, but they should really work on and tone it down?
Number 1 thing, if you're invited to a formal event and it's a black tie event and you've been giving banku and okra soup, don't go eating the banku and okra soup and licking your fingers. It may be all nice and sumptuous and yummy and everything, but licking your fingers in public. I don't even recommend using your hands to eat like that. You can use a spoon. I don't recommend that. But if you have to, which is a no-no for me, don't go licking your fingers. Please.
And then what's the number 2 one?
And the number 2 one, you mentioned that picking your nose, but that's not even it.
Okay.
When we learn not to say thank you and please. Thank you. Please and thank you are so basic.
Very important.
It's like you're driving, you stop to allow somebody to go past you, and then just go, it's my due. I deserve to. Anybody doing something good, it's just a polite way. These are social etiquettes, but they are business etiquettes. Another time we will probably talk about that.
We will go much further in.
Em,
thank you so much. I've learned a lot, and I hope you all have as well. And Em mentioned something at the end there, please and thank you. And remember, I spoke about saying thank you to people earlier on when I introduced us on the zone here. My name is Nanama Aqua. Up next, we have the news, and it's going to be with my wonderful colleague, Awisi Dede Jangi. So make sure you tune in again next week, Friday, with me. Natalia will be back on Monday.